By way of introduction, my name is Michelle Brown. Myself and my colleague Amber Forrester, we have been honored and fortunate enough to be hosting these lunch and learns on Wednesdays. We kicked it off at the beginning of COVID, and now that we're about 5 months into this surreal times, we have switched it from weekly Wednesdays to monthly Wednesdays, and we are just grateful that you all are joining us today. So I'm going to allow even my colleague, while we as hosts are introducing ourselves. Amber, do you want to just introduce yourself, and then I will spend a little bit more time telling everyone what they're about to expect.
Yeah, non-market related change.
Hey everyone, I'm Amber Lee Forrester. It's great to be with you again. We've missed you in our time away, but hope you're enjoying your summer. I am the founder of Quartz Wellness Collective, and Michelle and we're doing these weekly lunch and Wednesday monthly lunch and learns, but we've got a great one planned for you today. So I'm just excited to talk about getting your finances in order during this month of September, where the focus overall is order. So
with that said, the title of today is planning for your future and getting your finances in order. And we are honored to be inviting Marlon back again. He was with us several weeks ago, Marlon Scott. We'll allow him to sort of introduce himself, or Amber may read his bio. And we're triply honored to bring in Shalonda Leggs, an attorney who is a subject matter expert around wills and trusts. And between the two of them, we're really going to learn a lot today about what we need to do to plan for our future and make sure that our life and our legacy is in order while we're still here alive and kicking. So Amber, do you want to read bios?
Yeah, sure. So this is just a really important topic to discuss today, and we were excited to get Shalonda and Marlon with us because this is the stuff that we often avoid, that we really do actually need to talk about and plan for. And Shalonda taught me so much just in the couple minutes that we were spending planning for this call that I said, oh, this is going to be good. So we're excited to share this with you. So I'm going to introduce Shalonda first. Shalonda, wave, please. Hi. Shalonda Leggs is a principal and founder of the C. Smith Law Group, located in the metropolitan Detroit area, which excites me because I am born and raised in Detroit. Shalonda holds a Bachelor of Business Administration and Finance from Eastern Michigan University and a Juris Doctor in Law from the University of Detroit School of Law. She exclusively practices in the areas of probate and estate planning. She's a native Detroiter and possesses the hustle and drive that the city is known for. Prior to becoming an attorney, she had a 20-year career in finance and accounting. Once she began practicing law, it became obvious that many in the community were not as knowledgeable as to the benefits of having an estate plan. To help educate the community, Shalonda often participates in seminars and informs about the benefits of creating an estate plan and avoiding the pitfalls of probate court. Her philosophy is everyone needs an estate plan. With that said, who has an estate plan already in place? Anyone?
Anyone.
We'll all be listening today.
Anyone.
So we got a lot to learn. So Shalonda was actually introduced to us through Marlon. And so as just a little bit of fun, because you'll see these two have an amazing dynamic. Shalonda, I'm going to ask you to introduce Marlon to everyone.
OMG.
Three knives.
Marlon you're the executive vice president, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, he is the executive vice president of the Wealth Financial. He is a certified wealth financial planner, which means that he's going to make sure that we take our funds and they become wealthy. Exactly. Is that right?
Oh, yeah, that's me. Yeah.
Is that right? Marlon has a wealth of knowledge. you do have a wealth of knowledge. You have a wealth of knowledge. And what impresses me most about Marlon is his down-to-earth, approachable nature. I am one who appreciates someone's ability to take complex subject matters and really explain them in a way where everyone can understand, regardless of where their education level may be. So I think Marlon has some great information for us today.
Yes.
Marlon, you have great information for us today, right?
Always, Shalonda.
Okay.
Always.
Our goal with this conversation, so Shalonda and Marlon are gonna have a talk, and Michelle and I are gonna kind of sit back and watch and observe and ask questions with you all, with everyone who's on with us. Yeah, our goal for today was to have a laid back conversation in layman's terms so that all of this doesn't feel so above our heads, because we often get to this conversation and people just kind of check out. At least I do. So Michelle and I said, you know, how about we bring these two together who have this great dynamic and have them talk to each other in plain English so that we can understand and chime in with questions. So we welcome you all to invite or to use the chat for any questions that you have. And we will open up for questions in the last 10 to 15 minutes or so that we have together. But with that said, Shalonda and Marlon, you guys take it away.
Okay, I'll go first. Just real quickly, born and raised in Dallas, been in Houston since 2005. I started my career as a tax accountant with KPMG in Kansas City, Missouri. Go Chiefs. Worked in the .com arena, 1999, 2000, 2001. And then started, as I said, moved to Houston in 2005. Started at UBS Financial in River Oaks, which is one of the high-end areas of Houston where George Bush and Barbara Bush used to live. Then I went to Bank of America Investments. We then bought Merrill Lynch, so that became Merrill Lynch. Moved to Ameriprise Financial, and now this last month is my 2-year anniversary where I am now. So that's a little bit about me. Wanted to talk initially about, just give some info on the economics on what's going on right now. The biggest thing that has hit is the CARES Act because of the coronavirus. So you've heard most likely and seen quite a bit about CARES Act. And one thing that you focus the most on probably is the stimulus check. Well, there's other things included in that CARES Act. And a couple of the big things is your ability to pull up to $100,000 out of your 401k, IRA, your retirement accounts, free from the 10% penalty that you're usually hit with, and the tax that you owe on that, you don't have to pay it all in 1 year now. You can spread that out over 3 years, okay? And let me back up. I am not a tax expert, so be sure to get this verified with your CPA. But obviously, as a financial planner and someone who deals with folks' finances, we do have to know about the tax side of it, because our goal is all about making you money, but then not giving it back to the IRS. So, so the CARES Act is, or that piece of the CARES Act, remember, matter of fact, I just did that last week for a client. I mentioned that to him and he promptly had me distribute $100,000 out of his IRA, which I wasn't expecting him to do, but that's okay, because you can do that. And I sent a note to his CPA to let him know that that's what he did, because that's important to tax plan with the client's CPA as well. Another piece is the student loan. You now have, if you have a federal student loan, you now have until the end of the year before you have to make a payment. So in other words, you don't have to make any payments on that student loan until after 12/31/2020. Okay, so that's also, and that was just extended. I believe initially it may have been about 6 months, but now it's through the end of the year. So again, run that by your CPA just for verification, but that's also another key point. Real quickly, also, I wanted to just give a summary of when people think about Wall Street, there are a lot of misconceptions and also some things that people don't understand about the market. Right now, the market is taking off like crazy. And most people will think, okay, but the economy is not, Main Street is still hurting. People are getting laid off.
Oh God, I don't even have the.
Yeah, that might be true, but Wall Street and Main Street don't act the same. Wall Street looks about 12 months out. So in essence, the Wall Street analysts are trying to anticipate what's going to happen in the market versus what is happening right now. So what the analysts will do is look at company earnings, look at what's called guidance from companies, which means the president, CEOs will tell Wall Street what they think is going to happen based on what we have in the pipeline, what we see as sales coming down the line, research and development, some new products, those kind of things. So they'll give guidance, and then the analysts on Wall Street will take that information and plan accordingly. Then also look at geopolitical things, look at things like obviously the virus, how it's affecting the economy and the world. Also look at where we are in regards to the what am I trying to say? The serum, the shot, that's coming for
The vaccination?
The vaccine.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Shalonda.
You're welcome. I'm here for you.
That's why you're a great client, doggone it. Yeah, so if you see something happening, Johnson & Johnson, Eli Lilly, or whoever has news about the vaccine, then most likely you're going to see their stock take off, because that is obviously a positive, and the market sees that, and it sees that with the vaccine, things are going to start normalizing. So other things like Walmart will probably do better, and Costco will probably do better, and Apple will probably do better, et cetera. So those kind of things happen as far as Wall Street goes. A couple of things I mentioned to people who are, well, to my clients, as well as those people who ask me for information. I tell them to stop listening to everyone who has an opinion about the market, because their situation is not the same as your situation. So we as a people generally are way too conservative and not trusting when it comes to the stock market. And that is a huge mistake. I'm not saying throw all of your money in the market, but what I am saying is over the long term, 10, 15, 20 years, the market has in the past, and I cannot guarantee, and I will never make any guarantees, that the market is going to always go up. But I can show you chart after chart that shows that yes, there are bumps in the road. There are things that happen like what happened in March when the market dropped tremendously, but we've gained all that back plus some, and we're taking off. And remember 2008 when everybody thought the world was ended? Well, if you kept your money in the market or bought more positions during that time, you've more than tripled your money since 2008, more than tripled. So don't be ultra conservative with money that is not needed next week or next month, right? So that's big advice that I give people. Also, during this pandemic, please learn these lessons. Lessons like what Shalonda's about to talk about, that you should plan, that you should have things in place, because lots of people went into this not thinking that they were going to get sick and die, but they did. So you've got a lot of families out there who are setting up GoFundMe campaigns to pay for funerals. That should never happen, ever. A term insurance policy is beyond cheap, and you can get $200,000, $300,000 of term insurance for probably less than $100, $200 in some cases. But there's just no reason for you to have a GoFundMe to fund funerals. Insurance has to be, just like you insure your car, your house, you got to insure you and your legacy. And I could go on and on about that. But
no, this is a wealth of knowledge, even with what you have shared in terms of tips and insights, Marlon. So we just want to pause a moment before we pass the mic on to Shalonda, where she can give us a bit more insight about wills and trusts and things that we need to have in place. So we just want to open it up to our attendees to ask if there are any questions or further information, given what Marlon has shared thus far, that he can answer. Yes, Victoria.
So I'm just curious if you're not really sure about entering new money into the market at the moment because everything is so priced, in fact, it just went up. I'm just looking at the figures right now. It went up again. It's almost 29,000, the Dow. So it makes me too nervous to take money that I have currently and invest it in the stock market. So I'm thinking, what else is there if you're not interested in buying stocks at the moment because they seem so overpriced?
okay, good question. And I don't think I said that now isn't a good time to get into the market. But
You
if that's what you
said
said,
always get into the market. That's what I heard from you. That like
okay, good.
if you've got 20 years to go on your money at least, and you have enough for now for the next, let's say, 6 months to a year to live, then it's always good to be in the. I totally got that from you, but
Okay.
I personally, I'm somewhat of I'm conservative and I'm somewhat of a pessimist, and I believe that we're not going to be sitting pretty in the market like this in a year from now, when the realities of this virus really hit the country, and how many people are really impacted by this terrible situation that so many are in.
Okay, I can appreciate that. So the first question you have to ask yourself is, when do you need the money? So if this is something that you are trying to grow for the next 6 months or a year, then obviously you don't want to get too aggressive with it. But you are, and I tell clients and prospects this all the time, you are losing money sitting in the bank. You're almost paying the bank to hold your money. And there are so many other places that you can put it that will give you a yield. When I say a yield, think of an interest rate of anywhere from 2 to 3%, and you're getting less than 1% in the bank. I don't have the time to go through it here, and so I could obviously talk with you offline, but there are a lot of places that you can put your money. And if you need a certain amount of money, let's say you've got 10,000, but you need 1,000 or 2,000 for sure, then that other 8 can be sitting somewhere growing, because all your money you don't need all the time, right? It's gonna be sitting. So if it's sitting, make it do something.
Thanks for that, Marlon. So I'll make a comment and then a question. So some of the advice that I got was to buy small buy in small increments and buy things that are relevant that you think would actually help during a time like now. Like for instance, Marlon mentioned Walmart. So going out and buying 4 or 5 shares of Walmart, if it performs like Amazon has, Amazon's doubled in its stock price in the last like 6 months. So it could turn into something down the line that could be much more worth it than letting the money sit in the bank. So my question is, Marlon, how do you feel about that approach to buying stock at this current time? And then the second part of my question is, where do we all need an amazing financial advisor like you for day-to-day financial news? Do you recommend, or where do you recommend that we get our day-to-day financial news to stay abreast of these things?
Okay, so yes, I would suggest buying in small pieces. So think about, instead of the number of shares, think about how much you're looking to invest. So if you've got $2,000, then get $2,000 worth of whatever, you know, Apple or Walmart, or things that are off the radar that you don't really know about, and that's why you have a financial advisor. But do that and buy in pieces. And what people don't think about is that you may have the lady who just asked a question thinks that the market is overpriced, and that might be true in some cases. Then you can go out and use some of these financial these discount brokers and set a price. Let's say you want Apple at 150, but it's at 175 now. Then go in and set a price at 150 and just let it run. So when the market drops to 150, you're going to pick up some Apple shares, right? Because the system will buy those for you. The second question, where do you get financial? I would say Yahoo Finance is an awesome source of information. The Motley Fool is a good place also. I know it sounds like a crazy name, Fool, F-O-O-L, Motley Fool. That's a great place for information for those people who are just starting out. But what I would warn you is that there are always some ads popping in there about, you know, Wall Street doesn't know about their stock. You should get 500 shares. That Wall Street, this is going to take off. You know, don't pay attention to all that. Just get the information and get out. So that's what I would suggest.
Thank you for that. Okay. All right. So let's get into this estate planning and trusts. We're just reaching the top of the hour, so we want to make sure we have enough time.
Okay.
Yeah, Shalonda.
Okay, so I work best with questions coming at me. So as I speak, if you have questions, just ask me the questions. My hope is that as I'm talking, you start to, your wheels start turning and you say, oh, what about this? So the number one question that I get is, why do I need an estate plan? Why do I need one? I don't have any money. You know, I don't have $100,000. I don't even have $10,000. Like, why do I need an estate plan? So as Amber stated, I believe everyone needs an estate plan, because an estate plan is simply just not about money. It is about anything that you hold valuable in your heart or to yourself. So one reason why you want to have one is so that your family stays intact after your death. I practice probate law, which is litigation, if you will, of wills and trusts and things of that nature. And what happens is that you can't predict how death is going to affect a person. So you may have a person who's more outspoken, like I am in my everyday life, but then when my loved one dies, maybe I get quiet. You know, maybe that's how I grieve, but I don't know that because, you know, my loved one hadn't died yet. And then maybe the person who's weak and meek, they all of a sudden become very vocal. And so if you take the initiative to say, this is what I want to happen. I want this to happen with my house. I want the TV to go over here. This person gets the family photos. We have a lot of cases where people are litigating over things that have a lot of sentimental value. Think the family Bible, you know, a picture on the wall or a family portrait or something like that. So you want to, and you know, I encourage people to have an estate plan because you leave your family intact. That way they don't have to fight. And if they get upset with the financial plan or the estate plan, then they're mad at you and you're already dead. So, you know, what does it matter? The second reason why I encourage people to have an estate plan is you may want to avoid probate court. I'm not sure how many people know what probate court is and what it does, but probate is the method by which you get authority to administer an estate. So if you have a will, when you die, whoever you name as the personal representative or the executor of the will, they go to probate court to get legal authority so that they can follow your wishes as you wrote them in your will. And the reason why they need that is because if you left property or bank accounts or any type of assets in your name, you can no longer sign because you're dead. So the court has to give, well, it's true. So the court So the court has to give someone the authority to sign on your behalf. Okay. But even then, if you have a will, it still has to go to probate court, but that's better than not having a will. If you don't have a will, then your estate will be distributed to your family by what we call intestate succession. And every state is different on how they, if you will, the hierarchy of intestate succession. And some is if you have a spouse, your spouse gets everything up to a certain amount. And then if you have biological children, they get so much. So it kind of depends on what state you're in as to how intestate succession works. But think about if you don't have a spouse, or think about if you don't have children, and you didn't leave a will, just a basic will. All of your things are going to go to the state. Like, who works and has all their assets for them to go to the state? That's not what you want. So maybe you want to say, I want it to go to this church, or you want to give it to this charity, or you know, you want to give it to this particular friend. It's important that you state what you want to happen with your assets. At the bare minimum, you need a will. You should also have a durable power of financial authority. You want to have that, as well as a healthcare power of attorney. In Michigan, we call healthcare power of attorneys patient advocate designations. Now, let me explain why you want to have that. So, as Marlon pointed out, you know, we're in this pandemic. A lot of people have gotten sick. No one expects to get sick, and you don't expect to die. So, okay, the estate plan is one thing, but with these powers of attorneys, it allows you to say, should I become incapacitated? And for whatever reason, I can't speak. I have the brain fog. I don't know if you guys have heard about some people who have had COVID-19 and they've recovered, but they still have like this brain fog. You know, you have lingering effects. And so maybe you don't feel comfortable making your own financial decisions. You want to say, while you're in your right mind, who you trust to make those decisions should you not be able to do it. For those people who are married, that may not always be your spouse. You know, you may not want your sister. And if you don't have these things in place, what happens is your loved one has to go to probate court, file a petition to be appointed your guardian or your conservator, in order for them to make decisions on your behalf. Because kind of like with the personal representative, now we need the court to give someone authority to make these decisions, even though you're still alive. So it's just a basic plan. You know, If you're going to have a financial power of attorney, you want to make sure that you're selecting one who is not desperate in a financial desperate situation. Because when you have a financial power of attorney, they can do anything with your assets that you could do. So,
question, if I may ask.
Mm.
So you made reference, Yolanda, to estate planning and a will. So, so when you made reference to the estate planning and wanting to make sure that with whatever either financial assets you have or physical assets you may have, that you are determining who it goes to. So what's the difference in what goes into an estate plan versus a will? Meaning, are they kind of one and the same? Can you help us?
So think of an estate plan as the umbrella. That's just what we call all of the tools that can go into the tool belt. So, or think of the estate plan as the tool belt. So in that tool belt, you can have a trust, you can have a will, you can have a burial plan, you can have guardianship set up for minor children. You know, if something happens, who do you want to be the guardian of your children? You can have the power of attorney for finance. You can have the power of attorney for medical. So when I say
these are all separate documents.
They're all separate documents.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
they're all tools in the tool belt.
Okay.
And the estate plan is the tool belt.
And
And you mentioned a trust. And a trust avoids probate altogether. It allows for the most seamless transition of power to whomever you've selected as your successor trustee. Because you don't have to go to probate court, because we already have a document that says, when I die, Michelle is to manage my estates. He's to manage my assets, and all your assets are held by the trust. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yeah. So
I was going to give an example. So like this is my water bottle. So imagine that the water bottle is a trust. And inside of this bottle, I have water. So just imagine that the trust is the water bottle, and inside of it are all your assets. So as long as I'm alive, I have my water bottle. I can make decisions about my water bottle. I can pour water out the bottle. I can do whatever I want. I can say, I don't even want this bottle anymore, and throw it away. So I can, I can do whatever I want, and whatever is in here, that's what happens. But when I die, instead of this water bottle having to go down to probate court in order for the judge to now give it to Amber, when I die, Amber just knows, come to Sholanda's house, pick up the water bottle, and inside the water bottle are her assets, and I have all the legal authority I need right here, so I can manage the water and the water bottle as Shalanda has directed me to do so. Does that make sense?
That was awesome.
yeah. So I don't want to hog the mic, but this information is always so relevant. I remember going through this when my parents were alive, and now that I'm getting older, I want to make sure that I'm securing and getting all my tools in my toolkit as well. So in terms of the trust versus the will, meaning if in the will, you're basically identifying what you want to be done, what then, does someone need to be appointed as your trustee in order to execute your wishes outlined in your will? Or is it sufficient that your will outline exactly what you want? That's a part.
Okay. So one, we're mixing up terminology. So when you create a trust, the person who manages the trust is called a trustee. Okay. Usually it is the creator of the trust who's going to manage during the creator's life. Okay. Once the creator of the trust dies, that creator has already put in the trust what they call successor trustees. And that's who would go and get the water bottle.
I see.
Now, with a will, and let me say this, I like to say a trust is a living, breathing document because it functions during your life. So, Michelle, you own property. Your property is now deeded in your name, Michelle Brown. But once you set up a trust, it is going to be deeded in the name of the trust. The Michelle Brown Revocable Living Trust. That's going to be the name on the deed. So now the trust owns your property, but you manage the trust. Same thing with your bank account. The bank account may be in the name of Marlon Scott now, but once he sets up a trust, he's going to take his trust to the bank and have the name on his personal accounts changed to the name of his trust. That way, when he dies, it's in the water bottle. The account is now in the water bottle, and his son now comes and picks up the water bottle, and now he has immediate access to his money.
Got it.
Once he's deceased. That part's important. And we didn't have to go to probate court to make it happen.
Got it.
You have a will, you can't do that. A lot of times people like trust as well because they're private. Wills are public because they have to be probated, and court records are public. You know, people come to the court hearings and that type of thing. Right.
So we have a question.
Another way, let me just real quickly, to avoid all of that is when you set up your 401k, your IRAs, and you choose beneficiaries, that's where that money is going to go regardless of what anything else says.
Right. So if you have a trust,
get remarried, be sure to change your beneficiary in your 401k and your IRA.
it's true. But if you have a trust that's already set up, you can make the beneficiary your trust account, your trust document. And then the money will be managed and controlled according to the instructions that you put in your trust.
Yeah. My largest client has that set up right now. So, yeah.
And you know what else I find just in my practice is that a trust allows you to have the most control. It allows you to rule from the grave what's going to happen with your assets for as long as you want to happen. So maybe you got a knucklehead, a knucklehead son-in-law. Maybe your daughter's married to some guy, you really don't like him. You can put in there, okay, you're going to inherit $50,000, but not if you still married to Jim. We'll just hold, the trust will just hold the money until that's over, because you know Jim, maybe, I won't call Jim
a crackhead.
I wasn't going to say a crackhead. I'm going to say a knucklehead. Why we always got to be crackheads, you know? But anyway.
I mean, Houston.
Or whatever.
Maybe I got a question. This is all good stuff, but we want to make sure that we're tapping into the questions that are being posed in the chat room. So,
okay.
Stephanie asks a question, and it's relative to, hang on, let me just get it. If you have a power of attorney on a bank account for a relative and there's no will, what happens to the management of that account upon the death of the relative? Stephanie asks the question.
Okay, Stephanie, you said if you have a power of attorney on a bank account, there isn't a such thing as a power of attorney on a bank account. Now, you can have a bank account where they're joint owners, or you can have a bank account where there's a single owner and perhaps the second person is the beneficiary of that account.
Or a POD, right?
Yeah, payable on death, the beneficiary, you can have that. But there isn't a financial power of attorney for a bank account.
Stephanie, you want to unmute so that you can get.
Maybe I'm not understanding.
And yeah, allow Marlon and Shalonda. Is she still here?
Yes, I'm still here. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Now I apologize because I'm sitting right next to the window. So yes, I had a power of attorney form from the bank completed, and I am the person listed as the authorized power of attorney for this particular bank account. And I got the form directly from the bank because I wanted to make sure that there was no confusion when I wanted to file it with the bank. So when the statements, and it is not my account, but I'm the power of attorney for the account in question.
Mhm.
So now when the statements come to the address of the person in question,
Mhm.
under that person's name, you will see my name and the initials POA.
Mhm.
And I have the authority to act on behalf of this person for, necessary matters. And there is no will. This person is older, and we have COVID and we have so many things. So I'm like, hawkeye, eagle eye, watching everything, and I make sure that things are done in order. My question is, upon the death of this person,
Mhm.
and there is no will. So upon the death of this person, how will this current bank account situation change, or will it not change?
It will change. So upon the death of the principal, or as you said, the person that you have the power for, your power extinguishes. It ends. So with any power of attorney, once the person dies, the power ends, and then you need to go to probate court to
Okay.
continue to gain access to that account.
Okay.
And if they don't have a will that says what should happen to that money, then when you do go to probate court, it will be subject to intestate succession.
Okay. Very good.
That makes sense?
It does. Thank
Okay.
you.
Okay.
Definitely another thing that I just learned and didn't know. This is why this is such an important conversation. Stephanie, I'm glad you asked that question. So we want to have enough time to talk about the how, because we talked about why it's necessary, and I think we're all convinced. We have another question for Christina, but if we can let that lead us into the how to set up a trust and will. You mentioned this could be done in as little as a week, and I'm sure that would surprise some people to know that. So Christina, before we get into that, Christina asked how complicated and expensive, so she asked how complicated and expensive is it to set up a trust, which we'll get into, but leading us into that, Georgetta has asked, if you have everything in your trust and a trust has instructions, is a will no longer necessary?
So what I, as a practice, do is I create what we call a pour over will. It really doesn't have any specific information or instructions or directions in it. It simply says, if upon my death you found an asset that I forgot to put in my trust, put it in my trust and distribute it according to the instructions of my trust. But will you need a traditional will? No, you will not. But you should have what we call a pour over will. In Michigan, we call them pour over wills. So that if you forgot to put something, or you have some later acquired assets that you did not already have in your trust, the will simply says, put it in my water bottle, and then follow the instructions of the water bottle.
What I will also just real quickly say that I wish that we think about estate planning when we are thinking about creating generational wealth. Set up these trusts, set up these entities, these estate plans, get life insurance. The proceeds of that go into the trust, and then that trust can fund the next generation. The Rockefellers did that, and that's why they're still rich to this day.
They're not rich, they're wealthy. With old money.
Good point.
Yeah.
But they went through a period where they didn't make money and people passed them, like Bezos. But they're still in the conversation because of the way they set up their estates and insurance, through insurance.
That's true.
People don't realize how wealth can be transferred with insurance. And it's just critical.
Yeah. Amber, to piggyback and to follow up on what you said, how do you set up an estate plan? The number one thing you should do is go to an attorney who is licensed to practice in your state. That's the number one thing. It is unlawful for anyone who is not a licensed attorney to create an estate plan. That is called the unauthorized practice of law. And I say that because you will see people who will advertise, I can create you a will, you know, you don't have to spend that amount of money, you can come over here and I can do it. You're not just paying for the document, you are paying for the expertise of an attorney. I would also encourage, when you pick an attorney, select one who specializes in estate planning. I would not suggest you select a general practitioner because there are a lot of nuances to estate planning, and everybody's situation is different. It's probably similar to what you experienced, Marlon. What's going to work for Marlon is not going to work for Amber. That's not going to work for Stephanie. It's not going to work for Carol. It's not going to work for Michelle. They may have some things in common, but everybody's situation is particular to them. So you want to make sure you have that, especially when you're considering a trust, because there are no less than 20 to 30 different types of trust you can have. You can have a cottage trust, you can have a gun trust, you can have a revocable trust, you can have an irrevocable trust, you can have a life insurance trust. There's just a number of trust documents. So you want to make sure you have what is needed in particular for you. There's even a special needs trust. We don't talk about it a lot, but you may have someone in your family who maybe is learning disabled, or they have some sort of disease, you know, MS or something like that. And you want to make sure that they continue to receive their government benefits. Well, if they outright inherit money from a will, the government's going to say, pause. I'm gonna need you to spend down all this money you're getting. And when you spend all that down, then come back and we'll pick back up. But if it's in a special needs trust, they continue to get all their benefits that they're getting from the government, and then they still have the trust. So that's the number one thing. You need a licensed attorney, and you want to make sure you get someone who specializes in estate planning. Someone asked how much, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to lead into that. So Christina asked, how complicated and expensive is it to set up a trust?
Okay, so it's not complicated. If you go to someone who's experienced, the number one issue that I have is that I have people who contact me and I send them the questionnaire. They actually pay the retainer fee, and then they never come back because they don't want to gather the documents that's needed. So sometimes it's just really dependent on you, the client, on how quickly you get me the information back. But all things, you know, being equal, and you get me the information back, I would say for a will package, it takes about a week, and for a trust, it takes a couple of weeks, depending on how many instructions and directions we're going to put in there. Okay. When we talk price, I would say your prices are going to be anywhere, and this is dependent on what area you're in. I'm in Detroit, so you know what we charge is one thing, but if you're in the New York area, I'm sure it's going to be more expensive than what I'm saying, because you know it's just the way it is. But here you can get an estate plan starting at $750 for like a will, a power of attorney, and the medical power of attorney. And then as far as a trust, I would say trusts here start at about $2,500, and they go up depending on the complexity.
So following the how, because this is incredible information, not to mention you made reference to sort of getting an attorney who specializes in your particular area. So for those of us on the call that may be anywhere in the country, what's the best approach to finding an attorney?
Okay, so if you don't, I would say referral. If you know, maybe you have a family member who has set up an estate plan, it's just not something that a lot of people talk about, but sometimes, you know, if you ask the question, they may know someone, you know what I mean, that they've used, that they were satisfied with their services. If you don't have that, go to your state's bar association. So, we're licensed through the state. So in Michigan, it's the state of Michigan's Bar Association. If you go on there, you can search attorneys by geographic region and by specialization. And it's like that in every state. And then I would say when you pick your attorney, like when you're interviewing them, and I call it an interview, make sure you feel comfortable with them. Because if you do not feel comfortable, you won't share the information. And if I'm making your estate plan, I need to know what's going on. I need you to come and say, my family is a hot ass mess. And if we don't make this tight and right, it's going to be a mess. I need to know all your secrets, all your bones. I need to know that you have a separate account somewhere that your spouse does not know about and what you want to have. I need to know everything. And if you don't feel comfortable with me, you're not going to tell me all your secrets. And I need all of them.
Preach.
I need them all. You know what I mean? Like I had one client and they had 9 grandchildren. It was a husband and wife. And one of his daughters, she keeps like having all these babies from all these different men. And he's like, look, at some point she's gonna have to stop. I'm only giving money to 10 grandchildren, period. If she have any more after this particular year, those kids just get left off and she will have to explain it. I mean, I need to know what's going on. He didn't want to tell me that his daughter was loose. He didn't want to tell me, but I need to know that.
I'm sure you have a lot of stories.
Woo!
I do.
She needs the keys to the vault.
I do.
We have to close out soon. We just have a few minutes left. But you just mentioned to have all of your documents in order. And I just, in a last question, if I can, if you can let us know what some of those documents are so that if anyone here is preparing to go and get their estate planning and their trust and their will, what documents do we need to have?
So typically, I need to know what your bank accounts are. If you have life insurance policies, I need to know what those are. I need the deeds to your property. A lot of people have timeshares. I need those deeds. If you own weapons, meaning firearms, I need to know about those. If you have works of art, I need appraisals on different things. Those type of items are the documents that I need. And then it goes on and on depending on what it is. If you have jewelry, I need a description of the jewelry that you may be passing on to someone. I need that. Yeah.
So Shalonda, would videos be helpful nowadays?
No.
You need the actual description on paper?
No, I mean, I've had clients that'll take pictures. Not a video though. But if you want to take a picture and bring that to me, then that's fine.
Okay.
But not a video.
Very good.
Oh, and the last thing, I had a question recently and it actually came from another attorney, but they wanted to know, is there such thing as a verbal will? There is not. There is not. There can be a holographic will when you wrote it yourself, but there is no such thing as a verbal will that you recorded. Okay.
Well, Yolanda, my family is in Detroit. They are not a hot ass mess, but we will be contacting you about our we recognize when my grandmother passed away that we should have had a family trust, and that you know, in these times of everything just being so unexpected, things happening, people dying within a matter of days, we're glad we were able to have this discussion with you. I put in the chat, I know it's not the most lively discussion, but this is so important and necessary. So we appreciate you guys educating our community. It's 1:29 and we have another question, but with the respect of time, I'm gonna actually pass that on and see if we can get an answer to follow up after our time together, so we can let folks go at 1:30.
Okay.
Michelle, did you want to say anything in closing?
No, I mean, I just, you know, we always learn so much, even though we've been hosting these things. I just love when we have subject matter experts like Marlon and Shalonda to really kind of do a deep dive. So no, this has been very informative. The only last thing I'll say is, and I was asking you, Amber, our October 7th is our next monthly Lunch and Learn. And I believe our topic will be positive parenting, correct?
Oh,
Yes, yes. Yeah, so we know that a lot of people are struggling with their children home and looking for some tips and advice on how to connect with their kids, how to engage with them, how to motivate them. So we'll be discussing positive parenting in October. So please, if you are a parent, a teacher, an auntie, and you want to join us, that'll be a really good discussion. So, yep, October 7th. Thank you for mentioning that, Michelle. Marlon, thank you for bringing your friends. We like to learn these
You're
things.
welcome.
thank you for
I
inviting me.
do what I can.
Thank you for inviting me. It's my pleasure to share.
We appreciate it. Michelle shared your information and Marlon's information in the chat. I've taken some notes, and we have a question that we will pass along from Stephanie, so that we can get you that answer, Stephanie. But it is now 1:30 and we know you need to go on about your days. We always appreciate having you all join us. So thank you. This will be recorded and we will have it on Facebook and on YouTube. So if there's anyone who was not able to join us, you can feel free to share the replay with them. And any of our replays in the past, you know, from both of our websites, Michelle's intoaction.com and quartzwellnesscollective.com, we've got a page of our replays and you can catch them there. So it is September. The next time we see you, it'll be the fall. And before we go, Marlon's got a finger up. What's up, Marlon?
I have a disclaimer, just that I mentioned several stocks that none of those were recommendations. I am not recommending any of that because I don't know anybody's situation. So don't go by Walmart because I said it.
So you got an asterisk. You had an asterisk.
I got 4 or 5 asterisks.
Okay. Noted.
Duly noted, duly noted.
Advice, Marlon, I'm sure would be happy to help you all. So yes. All right, everyone. Well, it's been great. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday afternoon, and we'll see you again next month.
See you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
See ya.
Take care, everybody.